In the circles of the elite, the whispers were always the same. I was a gold digger, a trophy husband who had secured a winning lottery ticket at the altar. I didn't care. In fact, it was hilarious because they had no idea how good I truly had it, spending my wife's fortune on every whim. But then the unthinkable happened. Aurelia's billionaire empire crumbled into bankruptcy. Everyone expected me to bolt, but what they didn't expect was that I'd want to stick around for the comeback. After all, I'd gotten used to the lifestyle. The penthouse was a disaster zone. Everything that could be broken, I had broken. Aurelia sat on the white designer sofa, wearing a Chanel suit and pressing her fingers to her temples. I wasn't done. I pointed a trembling finger at her. My voice raw. You're faking this, aren't you? You found some boy toy, and this is your elaborate scheme to get rid of me. Aurelia let out a long, weary sigh. Ethan, everything I told you was true. Take what you can on leave. It's the best thing for you. I was panting with manufactured rage. Yeah, right, I sneered. Who just loses billions of dollars overnight? Nobody. Her expression hardened, her delicate features turning to ice. I'm telling you the truth, believe it or not. She stood, her movement sharp, and turned to leave the room, staring at her back. I swept a bowl of fruit from the coffee table, sending apples and glass skittering across the marble floor. Aurelia whipped around, her eyes blazing. I jabbed a finger in her direction. I'm telling you, you're not getting rid of me. Wherever you go, I go. She just stared at me, her mouth slightly open in shock. I snorted through my nose, turned my head away dramatically, and stomped up the grand staircase, making as much noise as possible. The second I was out of sight, I let out the breath I'd been holding. God, she was infuriating today, talking about divorce just like that. If she left me, who else would spoil me like a kid? I'd already seen the news on the official Sun Corp website. I knew this was just temporary. The Aurelia Sun I knew would drag her company back from the brink and build an empire that would make her old one look like a lemonade stand. Because one day ago, I'd woken up inside a novel. I was a character in a book I'd just finished, a pulpy bestseller called The Phoenix CEO. The protagonist was a powerhouse female CEO, and that CEO had a useless husband who did nothing but eat, drink, and party. In the book, the moment he found out she was bankrupt, he packed his bags, forced her into a divorce, and took what money she had left. He'd even had the gall to say, Aurelia, you just don't get me. I need a gentle, understanding wife. You're not the one for me. Later, when the Phoenix CEO rose from the ashes, he came crawling back begging for another chance. She threw him out and he ended up dying next to a dumpster. The good, I was now the useless husband. The bad, I derived at the exact moment. The CEO had just gone broke. I sighed, surveying the master bedroom. Designer clothes and luxury watches were strewn everywhere. With a sense of grim acceptance, I started to pack. Seriously, why did that scumbag get to enjoy the good times while I was stuck with the fallout? When I appeared downstairs with 2 giant suitcases and 3 duffel bags, Aurelia looked at me like she'd seen a ghost. You're actually coming with me. I grunted, shifting the weight of the bags and gestured for her to lead the way. She still looked skeptical, but she led me to the car waiting outside. Her mother, Mrs. Sun, was in the back, still dazed from the shock, quietly dabbing at her eyes with a tissue. The Uber drove us out of Manhattan and into Queens, stopping in front of an old, run-down brick apartment building. It had just rained, and the street was a minefield of puddles. The moment Mrs. Sun saw the building, she broke down into full-blown sobs. Aurelia quickly helped her out of the car and guided her toward the entrance, shooting a look back at me. It was a clear C. Now do you believe me? Look, as if this would break me. Before all this, I was just another corporate drone working a 2. I'd slept on my office floor during crunch time more than once. This was a step up. The apartment was cramped, filled with worn-out furniture. I saw only 2 bedrooms and my heart sank. How were we supposed to sleep? I mean, technically, the original Ethan and Aurelia were married, but I wasn't him. What are you standing there for? Mrs. Sun's voice, sharp with resentment, cut through my thoughts. Are you going to make 2 women move everything? I sighed and looked at Aurelia, the powerhouse CEO, a woman who'd probably never lifted a finger in her life, was struggling to drag a heavy box through the doorway. I strode forward and took the box from her. She looked up, startled. Move, I need to get this inside. Without a word, I lifted the box easily, carried it in, and set it down. Then I went back for the rest. If I was going to live here, I couldn't let the women who were supporting me do all the work. That was just pathetic. I worked for hours, and by the time everything was unpacked and organized, the sun had set. I collapsed onto the lumpy sofa, exhausted. Aurelia sat down next to me, her expression a strange mix of surprise and something that looked like pride. "You've changed," she said softly. I was too tired to move, but I managed a weak laugh. "What do you mean? I'm the same old me." She opened her mouth to say something else, but my stomach cut her off with a loud growl. Aurelia's lips twitched into a smile. I wanted the floor to swallow me whole. I cleared my throat. See what's in the kitchen." "It's too late," she said, completely unfazed. "We didn't buy groceries. Let's just order something." I nodded automatically. When the delivery arrived, I saw that aside from a kale salad, every other container held my favorite dishes: spicy rigatoni, a dry-aged steak, truffle fries. I stared surprised. Aurelia frowned at my reaction. "These are all your favorites. What's wrong?" A pang of disappointment hit me. For a second I thought she'd ordered them for me. Turns out the original scumbag and I just had the same taste in food. I shook my head, pretending to be nonchalant, and sat down to eat. Aurelia, even in a cramped apartment, ate with an elegance that was mesmerizing. Later that night, Mrs. Sun had already gone to her room. I just showered and was staring at our clothes now piled in the second bedroom. Flashes of things I probably shouldn't be thinking about ran through my mind. Were we really going to sleep in the same bed? What if she, made a move? Should I let her? If I didn't, would she get suspicious? But if I did, I'd lose my you get the idea, an image of her way. That confident posture, that coolly beautiful face popped into my head. I swallowed hard. Okay, maybe I'd put up a little token resistance. You can't make it too easy or they don't appreciate. Lost in my own world, I didn't notice her coming until a hand landed on my shoulder. I jumped, startled. Aurelia looked concerned. "What's wrong? Are you okay? Your face is bright red." Seeing her in person only made the images in my head more vivid. I couldn't speak. She leaned in, looping an arm around my neck and rising on her toes. Her cool hand on my hot skin sent a jolt through me, and the fresh scent of her shampoo filled my senses. I couldn't help but close my eyes. Her hand came to rest on my forehead. "You don't have a fever," she said, pulling back with a puzzled look. It was like being doused with a bucket of ice water. Reality came crashing back. I turned away, sitting abruptly on the edge of the bed. "I'm fine," I snapped. She didn't seem offended by my tone, simply sitting down across from me. "Good. If you're fine, then we need to talk." A million questions flooded my mind, but I kept my mouth shut. She didn't wait for me to ask. "You see now, don't you? The bankruptcy is real and there's no boy toy. So let's just get a divorce. I have about $50,000 left in my personal account. My mom and I need to live, so I'll keep 10. You can have the rest. Consider it a final severance package." She said all this so calmly, then just watched me, waiting. I felt a surge of anger. She still didn't believe I would stay. "So you're still trying to kick me out?" She shook her head. "I'm not kicking you out. I know you won't be happy here. You used to throw a fit if the mattress was even a little too firm." I was speechless. That original guy was more high maintenance than a supermodel. My eyes darted around the room searching for a comeback. "I'm staying here," I declared, my voice firm. "Wherever you go, I go." Then, for emphasis, I flopped down onto the bed and pulled the covers over my head. I could feel her eyes on me for a long time. Just as I was about to drift off, I felt the mattress dip as someone lay down behind me. When I woke up, Aurelia was already gone. I was left alone in the apartment with Mrs. Sun, who glared at me as if I were a cockroach. To escape the awkward silence, I headed out. As the door closed behind me, I heard her muttering, "Useless man. Good for nothing but sleeping and shopping." I pretended I didn't hear and found a local coffee shop. I spent the morning listing all of the original Ethan's valuables on the secondary market. The Rolexes, the designer sneakers, the limited edition jackets. He was a show-off, so his stuff was worth a lot, even secondhand. Around noon, I stopped by the neighborhood grocery store. They had a special on eggs, but it was limited to 1 carton per person. When I opened the apartment door, I was met with chaos. Water was flooding the kitchen floor from an overflowing sink, and a black smoking lump sat in a pan on the stove. "Mom, what are you doing?" Mrs. Son looked at me, completely flustered and on the verge of tears. "I was afraid you two would come home hungry, so I tried to cook. But this spatula wouldn't listen to me." I was speechless. I gently guided her out of the kitchen and started cleaning up the mess. She watched me with suspicion. "Maybe I should do it," she offered weakly. "I've got this," I said firmly, keeping her out of the disaster zone. When I finally brought out 3 plates of perfectly cooked pasta carbonara, Mrs. Son stared at me in disbelief. The man she knew could barely operate a microwave. Just then the door clicked open and Aurelia walked in. Her expression mirrored her mother's. She pointed a finger at the plates. "You made this?" I nodded proudly. After getting a nod from Mrs. Son, a genuine, dazzling smile spread across Aurelia's face. "It's good," she said, her voice full of sincere praise. After lunch, Aurelia left again. I got a message from a buyer who wanted to see one of the watches, so I slipped out. As I stood outside the bar for the meeting, a McLaren Ness screeched to a halt across the street. Aurelia was behind the wheel, and in the passenger seat was a young, slick-looking guy. They both got out and walked into a boutique hotel. I thought she was broke. Where did she get a supercar? On a strange impulse, I followed them. This was a bad idea, but a thought struck me. This wasn't like the Aurelia I was getting to know. She was principled. She wouldn't cheat. I managed to get the room number and hurried upstairs. I stood outside the door and hesitated, but a loud crash came from inside the room. I slammed my palm on the doorbell in rapid succession. A man's irritated voice yelled from inside, "Who the hell is it? You're interrupting." His voice was cut off by a woman's cry, followed by a sharp slap and a grunt of pain. "Ah, Aurelia, you bitch. You dare hit me." I heard a scuffle and a moment later the door flew open. Aurelia stood there, her clothes in disarray. She looked terrified, and when she slammed straight into my chest, her composure shattered. "What are you doing here?" Before I could answer, a furious voice boomed from the room. "Aurelia, I'm doing you a favor by even touching you. And you have the nerve to fight back?" Derek Vance appeared in the doorway, wearing nothing but a pair of pants. He stopped when he saw me, leaning against the door frame with a smug expression. Well, if it isn't the trophy husband. You followed her all the way here? What's the point? This isn't the first time for me and your wife. You're paid to look the other way, so take the money and mind your own business." Aurelia pointed a shaking finger at him. "You're lying," she cried, then turned to me, tears streaming down her face. "Ethan, don't listen to him. It's not true." It all clicked into place. Derek was trying to force himself on her. I remembered him from before. He was like a pathetic lapdog kissing up to her. Now that she was down, he was showing his true colors. Seeing my silence, the hope in Aurelia's eyes faded. Derek just laughed. "What? You want to join in? Make it a threesome?" Aurelia gasped and raised her hand to slap him. I caught her wrist. They both stared at me, stunned. I gently pushed Aurelia behind me, stepped into the room, and slammed the door shut, locking it. Derek watched me, unimpressed. "What's this, pretty boy? You think you could take me on? Get lost before you get hurt." A cold smile stretched my lips. I grabbed him by the shoulder, spun him around, and drove my fist into his gut. Before he could react, I was on top of him, raining punch after punch onto his stomach. "You piece of trash," I snarled. "Aurelia was nothing but good to you. The second she's in trouble, you turn on her. I'm going to teach you a lesson you'll never forget." Derek was helpless, begging for me to stop. Frantic knocking came from the door along with Aurelia's panicked voice. "Ethan, what are you doing? Open the door." I stopped. Derek lay whimpering on the floor. I crouched down and patted his cheek. "Listen to me, you little worm. If you ever go near my wife again, I will find you and I will break you." A moment later, hotel security opened the door. Aurelia rushed in, her worried eyes fixed on me. I gave her a small smile to show I was okay. Under my threatening gaze, Derek Vance swallowed his pride and his pain, staying silent. Aurelia and I walked down the street in silence. I could feel her despair. "You must think I'm pathetic now, don't you?" she said, a brutal smile on her lips. "Maybe women are just meant to depend on men." "No," I cut her off, my heart aching for her. "Don't you dare sell yourself short. You were born to be like the moon, bright, unique, one of a kind. Right now, the moon is just hidden by some clouds. But I promise you, one day the clouds will part and you will shine again." She stared at me, her eyes wide. Then her light vanished, and she covered her face with her hands and began to sob. I pulled her into my arms, holding her tight. "It's okay," I whispered. "You'll be that dazzling moon again." When she finally pulled away, she looked at the wet patch on my shirt with embarrassment. "I got your shirt all wet." I leaned in closer, my voice low. "Have my dear wife wash it for me when we get home." I was rewarded with the sight of her ears turning a lovely shade of pink. She shot me a shy glare, and I took her hand in mine. We walked the rest of the way like that. That incident was a turning point. Our relationship deepened, and even Mrs. Sun started treating me with a hint of warmth. A few days later, I'd sold everything I'd listed online. I grinned as I looked at my bank balance. This was at the seed money Aurelia needed for her comeback. In the book, she'd struggled so hard to scrape this money together. That night, I pulled a confused Aurelia into our bedroom and placed my debit card in her hand. Her jaw dropped. "Where did you get this much money?" I explained how I'd sold all my watches and clothes. Her expression shifted to deep, aching tenderness. "Why would you sell them?" I lifted my chin, feigning arrogance. "They were just sitting there. But by selling them, I can give you another shot. And if you succeed, I can have as many watches as I want, right?" She was still hesitant. I put my hands on her shoulders. "Are you really going to let my sacrifice be for nothing?" She thought for a moment. Then her resolve hardened. She squeezed my hand tightly. "Ethan, don't worry. I won't let you down." She radiated a confidence so bright it almost blinded me. And for the first time, she was completely and truly mine. After getting the money, Aurelia became a whirlwind. She was out the door before sunrise and came home long after dark. But as expected, she was brilliant. In just 2 months, she doubled the initial investment. One evening, I helped a very drunk Aurelia out of a restaurant. The moment I got behind the wheel, she threw her arms around my neck, giggling. "Honey, I'm so glad I have you," she slurred. "Are you happy, honey?" Suddenly, the world tilted. The space inside the car seemed to warp and distort. I shook my head hard, and the scene snapped back into focus. An inexplicable wave of grief washed over me. A gut-wrenching panic that I was about to lose something precious. Her phone buzzed. The caller ID was blocked. I answered, and Derek Vance's voice, raw with fury, exploded from the speaker. "Aurelia's son, you goddamn bitch. Are you trying to destroy me?" I clenched my jaw. "She's had too much to drink. Call back tomorrow." Derek sneered, "The trophy husband. Do you have any idea what your precious wife has done? She's a demon." I already knew all this. The Aurelia son from the book was a force of nature once she got back on her feet. I cut him off. "So what if she's ruthless? You're a pathetic dog. You say one more word about her and I will break your legs." "In what army?" Derek shot back. Suddenly, the phone was snatched from my hand. Aurelia was awake, her voice cool and steady. "His and mine," she said into the phone. "And if you ever show your face again, I'll break your legs." A warmth spread through my chest. She was defending me. Aurelia hung up and kept glancing at me. "A person like that. Can he still love me?" Am I scary? I was stunned. I reached over and took her hand. "All I need to know is that you're my wife." "That's enough." She let out a long breath as if a great weight had been lifted, and fell asleep again. That phone call didn't deter her. She escalated her campaign against Derek, and within a month, he was forced to file for bankruptcy and disappeared completely.